Good day, everybody, and welcome to another edition of the Military and Foreign Affairs Network. I am your host, the voice of reason. Today, we are continuing our ongoing coverage of the civil war taking place inside the former state of Ethiopia. I also wanted to note one other item before I continue. I'm going to do another video about the ongoing conflict between Russia, Ukraine, and what could be ultimately a conflict between Russia and the United States and the Western European states. We're hearing some things, we're seeing some things, and it has me concerned, and I'll talk about that in a next video. Anyway, back to the ongoing war that is taking place as the Eritrean military attempts to invade the northern Tigray region, supported by Abiy loyalist forces of the former state of Ethiopia. Heavy fighting continues near Adidaro and within the vicinity of Shiraro. Additionally, we are getting reports that massive movements of conscripted forces out of Asmara, the capital of Eritrea, are currently underway. It looks like the despotic regime of Eritrea, the North Korean-like regime of Eritrea, is conscripting large numbers of mobilized forces, and it would appear that those forces are being deployed in the direction of Adidaro, towards Adigrat, and ultimately in the vicinity of Rama as well. And what I mean by Adigrat, in all probability, we will see a renewed effort by the Eritrean Army to push down the B-20 highway towards Adigrat. But this would be the Zalambasa front, or Zalambasa area of operations. Additionally, we're also receiving reports of major recruitment efforts by the Abiy Ahmed government. We are hearing that they are conducting what can only be described as persuasive recruitment operations, almost on the verge of general conscription, and some would say they are conducting generalized conscription in some of these areas that have Abiy Ahmed loyalist supporters in the Amhara region and some parts of the Oromia region, and in Addis Ababa as well, also known as Finfane. But again, what we're watching right now is the deployment and the rapid buildup of the Eritrean Army that is taking place. So why is this happening? Why is the Eritrean military, why is SASF working, and his general staff resorting to additional conscription and recruitment of armed personnel? Well, the reason is the existing forces that were initially deployed to invade the Tigray region have sustained horrific casualties. The northern front of the Tigray region, so if you have Tigray and the northern area of Tigray, or you could say it's the southern front for the Eritrean military, the Eritrean military has sustained incredible losses over the past few weeks in the ongoing fighting that is taking place. Losses to which we could see the front line being compromised for Eritrean forces, which could then risk a Tigrayan Defense Force counterattack into Eritrea. It would appear that both the forces of the Abiy loyalists and the Eritrean military, by far, from what we hear, there's obviously more Eritrean forces being deployed near Shiraro and just to the north of Adidaro, coming down this main arterial route here. And again, because of those well dug in Tigray Defense Force lines that have been prepared over the course of a year plus, it is a tough, tough slog for the Eritrean Army, and they have sustained just some massive casualties, especially over the course of the last week or two, from what we're hearing. I mean, casualties the likes that we have probably not seen since World War I, with the way some of these operations are being conducted. We talked about the human wave attacks that the Eritrean military uses. Again, these are not very well trained forces that have been conscripted by the Eritrean Army. They don't have huge amounts of money to conduct training operations inside of Eritrea, so they don't get a lot of shooting time. And basically, their ability is ultimately eventually enhanced on the actual battlefield, which, unfortunately for the Eritrean Army and those conscripted forces, against this well dug in Tigray Defense Force that is facing the Eritrean border, is again really causing some serious issues for the Eritrean military, and that's why we're seeing this rapid conscription, this rapid mobilization taking place, because they're just not able to do what they want to do with the existing force construct, which is significant. Going into this, the Eritrean military probably had over 200,000 personnel, and with this mobilization that we're seeing within the last month or so, probably 300, and some sources say up to 500,000 Eritrean forces have been mobilized. But that's kind of where we sit right now in terms of what we're seeing, what we're hearing, what we're watching. Again, a very tough time for the Eritrean military, and that's why we're seeing this massive mobilization take place. They thought, the Eritrean military believed, that they would have a fairly rapid advance because of the land, the terrain. And I'll go over here near Shiraro is relatively flat. And we'll kind of zoom in here. So you can see, again, not flat in all spaces. Obviously, there is some hills and defilades and what have you. But generally speaking, it is flatter and less mountainous, less rugged, until you kind of get down towards this location here, Adi Awala. And this area becomes much more hilly and with heavier terrain features. And that is the route that eventually would take them to Adi Daro. So you can see they were able to progress fairly quickly into Shiraro. And even then, we have seen that the Tigray Defense Forces were fairly well dug in Shiraro and around Shiraro. But because the terrain is so flat, it's allowed the Eritrean military to deploy its tanks, its armored vehicles, in a manner that's very tough for the TDF to defend this area. But if we go over here, again, this route that takes you through Adi Awala and then eventually down towards Adi Daro, it does become more hilly and more terrain features, especially to what would be the west and the east of the main route of advance, which would be this highway here. So that is why the Eritrean military really has chosen its efforts on this area here, Shiraro, down through Adi Daro, and then eventually the gateway city of Shire, which would then pose a significant threat for the Tigray Defense Forces if Shire were to fall, because then you would look at a two-pronged route of advance by the Eritrean military, one through Ramah and another through Shire. And that goal would be along the B-30 seizing cities such as Axum, Adwa, and then eventually continuing to push, and then eventually three-pronged offensive through Zalambasa, Rama, and then Eritrean forces moving along the B30 from west to east. Hopefully that makes sense for you. But the big issue, again, why they are not advancing really at all near Rama and north of Adigrat, Zalambasa, is again the terrain. The Tigrayan Defense Forces, very, very good mountain fighters, very good light infantry, very, very well versed in this terrain. And it is rugged terrain indeed. And that is why it's very difficult for the Eritrean military to move along these routes of advance. Zalambasa, Rama, same thing here, down just north of this area near Adwa. Lots of hills, lots of mountains, lots of switchbacks. Very difficult for a motorized or mechanized force in conjunction with massive amounts of light infantry to maneuver. So their route in to Tigray, their best push was in this area, Shiraro towards Adidaro, and then ultimately the gateway near Shire. And they haven't been able to do it yet. And once they get near Shire, again, you're looking at major defensive preparations that have been done in these areas along the mountainous terrain just to the kind of the northeast of Shire, and to the lesser extent kind of to the northwest as well. So very, very tough slog for the Eritrean military in its endeavor, and that's why we're seeing again these recruitment efforts taking place. In the east, near Afar, in the Afar region, just to the east of Mekelle, we're not hearing a lot of, we're not getting a lot of information in terms of fighting taking place. It looks like this limited operation by Afar regional militias and the Eritrean military was just stopped. And as I talked about before, I did not believe any operation by the Eritrean military in Afar was going to be successful because of logistical challenges. And you're very kind of close to the center of the Tigrayan power base near Mekelle, and then obviously you have massive amounts of logistical supplies that the Tigrayan Defense Forces can deploy in the eastern area of operations along the Afar regional border. In the south, we're going to continue to watch this as the Abiy loyalist government continues to mobilize. Are these forces going to go to Eritrea? Or are they going to look to try to open up a front and try to push towards Alamata from northeastern Amhara region, or conduct operations north of Debark in the direction of a DRK? Difficult to say right now, but all eyes right now are really on what's happening near Shiraro and within the vicinity of Adidaro. If the Eritrean Army is going to be successful, it is going to be in this area. And so far, the Tigrayan Defense Forces has stopped them. And ultimately, it's very, very difficult for the Eritrean to move in these areas over here, Zalambasa and Rama. But that's where we're at for today. We will continue to cover and bring you more content as we get it. Thanks for joining us today. And as always, have a good day.